How to deal with your parents? Question that is more difficult to answer than people might think, especially if you have been hurt by them, which pretty much everyone has. And so my experience with this is thousands of hours of therapy with people where we talked about their parents. And, mostly it is this balance between what feels right and what you're taught you're supposed to, right? Because my first advice is ask yourself if you like them enough so that you would meet them even if you weren't related. So if they were someone that you just met, would you want to spend time with them? And if the answer is no, well, then there's your answer. And so very often, then people say, well, but I have a guilty conscience. I don't want to spend time with them, but I feel guilty if I don't. And I have this story of a client from Asia, and her mother beat her so she would play the cello. She was very abusive. And so my client, she got herself a great career to leave and come to Switzerland, is where I met her. And so one day the telephone came with her older siblings calling her and saying, well, you're the youngest daughter. You have to look after our mother. And so she came to me with this question, what should I do? And I said, well, do you want to go? She said, no. And I said, well, do you like your mother? She said, absolutely not. And I said, well, there's your answer. Don't go. And she said, well, but I have to, my mother, and, Asian culture says you have to take care of your parents and such and such. And I said, well, who taught you this? Right. She said, well, my parents did. I said, isn't that a surprise that those who benefit the most from it are those who tell this to their children? But funny enough, there's never, a request for parents to treat their children right, to pay attention to them, to protect them, to support them, to love them unconditionally, right? Because that's what I would say. If you are the model parent, then you deserve the model children. But otherwise, well, then you don't. And there is no model parent, so either way, you don't have to if you don't want to. So that is number one. Number two, if you said yes to you want to spend time with them, then the question is how much, right? Who decides this? Because very often many parents are good at emotional manipulation, right? Oh, I'm so old, I'm so sick, I'm whatever, emotionally manipulating the children to spend time with them. And of course you have to fight that off somehow. And I had this client, she said that her mother always talked about the same things about her weight or something like that. And she was very annoyed, by this. And so I said, well, just tell your mother, Mom, if I'm coming by, if I'm coming to talk to you, then I do not want you to make comments on my weight. Otherwise, I'll leave. And then she went and did that. And it took about 10 minutes for her mother to, talk about her weight. So I said, well, great. Now you know how much respect she has for you, which is about 10 minutes worth. And so you can now act accordingly. And first, she tried to do this, multiple times. She said, if you talk about it, I'll leave. Talk about this, I'll leave. And then it went more and more, for minutes or hours or whatever. But eventually she would, talk about the things that hurt my client. And so we said, well, if she can't do it, she doesn't treat her like an adult, then, you have to cut it off. And now it's maybe a phone call once every year, So that would be the second part of my recommendation is reduce your contact with your parents to the amount and the depth where you don't get hurt, right? Don't let them hurt you again. Don't give them the opportunity to make you feel small again or to hurt you or to belittle you, maybe just because you were used to that from your childhood, right? Become an adult in their presence, basically. So, in conclusion, step one, ask yourself if you like them enough. And step two, how much? Decide for yourself how much, and that's good enough. So I hope that helps.